Joined by former Charger Davis Sanchez and TSN Overdrive host Bryan Hayes. Chez, I'll start with you. Your former team has not won more than one playoff game in a single season since 2007. Even with Justin Herbert at quarterback for the past 4 seasons, the Chargers have one double-digit win season, one playoff appearance, 0 postseason wins, but they have brought in the national championship winner from the NCAA, Jim Harbaugh, back to the NFL to be their new head coach. Chez, is he enough to change the Chargers' culture of, if you'll excuse me, underachieving?
Yeah, first of all, why does Hayes look like the NFL player?
It just kept going and going.
Sitting next to me, he looks like that. But look, it's undeniable what Jim Harbaugh's been able to do at every level, going
back to San Diego,
NCAA,
University of San Diego,
small schools in Michigan, and with the Niners. It's undeniable. And I've been with friends of mine have been on his staff, or teammates of mine on his staff, and they all say the same thing, that Jim Harbaugh is a quirky kind of guy. But the thing is, veterans believe in Jim Harbaugh because he's a highly intelligent football mind. And you can't fool vets. Vets know. And so when he comes in and talks football, and they believe in his plan. So I have no question this Charger team is going to be a better Charger team. Now, you look at the upgrades offensive line. You look at Greg Roman. So now they got Slater and Alt at the tackles. They got a run game, the J.K. Dobbins they expect to lean on. The question I have is, if you look at their receiving core, how are teams playing the best 2 teams in the AFC, powerhouse teams last few years, the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs? What did teams do to go against them offensively? They lined up, they played man coverage, and they made their secondary guys, secondary weapons on offense beat you. Well, it's arguable that the Chargers have a primary guy that can beat you on offense. That's the problem I see looking at this team. It's not that we'll be better. I don't know if they have enough weapons to compete with the rest of the teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case this year, but I think it will get there with Harbaugh. I mean, I don't know if he screams Hollywood, right? He doesn't scream Hollywood. Sean McVay screams Hollywood with the Rams, but I think Harbaugh, because he was a player as well, that probably goes a long way, right? And his family's been in the game for a long time. He's been a winner. It's not necessarily about taking what he did in Michigan, but look what he did with San Francisco. Like, this guy knows how to win ball games, and he does have a cheat code in Justin Herbert, right? You look at Sean Payton in Denver. He's trying to do the same thing with the Broncos. He doesn't have a cheat code right now. I think it's going to take a long time for Peyton and the Broncos to get there within that division. I think Herbert, Harbaugh, a defense that's generally very sound, and the modern game is about offense. We saw that Brandon Staley was a defensive coach. He was way too conservative. I think Harbaugh knows I need to unleash Herbert. If and when he does that, they can take off.
But they're also going to play a bit of old school football here. I mean, you just look at they take a tackle, they sign a blocking tight end, and you mentioned bringing in J.K. Dobbins, bringing in Gus Edwards. I'm not sure those are the guys that are going to be around in the backfield when this team gets to the top of the mountain. And I have some questions about especially Dobbins' durability. But isn't this about kind of taking the Chargers back in time a little bit to be a more balanced team? So it's not like you can unleash Justin Herbert. You just don't want the game riding on him week after week after week, and that's what it's felt like on the Chargers up until now.
That's the teams, and you're right, the teams that have been led by Harbaugh in the past have been run first, and they're balanced teams.
Offensive line, run first.
Exactly, and pretty strong defenses. I would disagree or maybe slightly agree. Their defense is not. I don't think they're good, and I don't think you think they're great.
No, but that's what they've invested in the past, right? And that's what Staley was supposed to bring out.
Yeah,
they have talent. It just never worked for them.
They do, and they're not. Their back end again, same thing. The way that they'll match up against look at the AFC. The way they match up against those teams in the AFC, you have to have the athletes to compete on the outside. They don't have the athletes to compete on the outside. After Asante Samuel, I don't know if they have any number 1, potential number 2 corners. That's the issue as well. But I do know for certain this is the best quarterback that Jim Harbaugh has ever had, and they will be better. It's a matter of how long it takes for them to get better.
Yeah, and you got to give them some time. I mean, you have to be fair to Harbaugh. And again, I think, though, having a quarterback in place, and Herbert's still got to prove himself, like in the biggest moments. And sometimes he can get a little bit cowboy back there and start doing some crazy things. But the AFC, as we all know, there are so many great quarterbacks. And in that division, Denver, I think, is out of the way for a year or two. Vegas is middle of the ground, in my opinion. You're chasing Kansas City. You're not going to do that immediately. That's not the expectation. But you have a goal in mind. You know that is the standard bearer within the AFC West. I think Harbaugh is a guy, I don't know if he can match Andy Reid, but he's a lifer. I think he's a really smart coach. I think he pushes them in the right direction.
Can I ask you this question, Dave? It's in both you guys. can you play, and you mentioned it, they want to run first or play strong defense. Can you win in the AFC with Justin Herbert as your quarterback? Can you win in the AFC right now trying to run the ball and play ball control against the guys
I don't think you can. Like, at some point, you got to unleash offense. You have to throw the ball.
I think that's part of what we're going to find out with the Chargers, because I don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to change. And one of the things also is that he has won quickly everywhere he's been, and that allows you get buy-in from players. This roster, I don't think, is set up to win quickly. So it could be a little different scenario here in terms of Harbaugh and the Chargers.
The only way they win is Cowboy. Do you say he's been Cowboy? I think it's similar to Buffalo. They're going to have to be Cowboy because that roster's not good enough to grind it out.
The Chargers have 2 double-digit win seasons in the last 14 years, but in his 4 years as head coach of the 49ers, Harbaugh had at least 11 wins in all but one season.